So if you bring up the word self and the word confidence, I go a few different ways, but I can land on one specifically, and it's the fact that you can often note, and I'll start with the anecdotal version of it and kind of lay a guess out there, and then we'll kind of work from there. But you can kind of note that really, in a lot of ways, negating the self is comes from a lack of confidence, right? And we could just play with the words, and we can kind of make it semantically true, or semantically obvious, or semantically likely true, or at least a good point. Be like if something is happy, it's going to self perpetuate. It's going to exponentially increase its area of itself, because it's like myself is good. There's no reason for myself not to be other places. So things you good equals increase in this, and then so then we can take the inverse and be like, okay, when I don't think myself is good, then I want it to decrease. It should not be on others. And we see this exact line of thought within different esoteric things like Buddhism and stuff, where you want to just kind of lessen yourself, become less of a footprint, things like this. So it's a lack of confidence in you. That you was very teachery, very preacher moment. It's when that the person's on stage and they want to make it personal. It's you. So you have this lack of confidence in self, and so we can just kind of notice that, and we can make that guess, and then we can notice the trends and how they actualize within actually religions and these kind of talks. And you get the self-depreciating, you get the people who are all about just anti-materialism, anti-consumerism, etc. And that those things go hand in hand in the modern world with the concept of there's no self, there's no I. Dissatisfaction with your identity, an impureness between the subject and object. So you don't have subject and object, you have something in between the two in your head, and that's a pun, and what gets in between them is, and that's seen as some sort of impurity. Impurity is not a good word, but some sort of detraction from the process of a clean engagement with me and others. Yeah, so it's lack of confidence, and that's where my brain goes first when I think about the idea of self and the idea of confidence. Let's see, where else can I go? So you can kind of just see, it's a simple kind of logical line to get yourself out of that. And Buddhism is kind of dumb. I mean, it's okay, but it can basically be philosophized away without much difficulty, in that you've got a cyclical anti-self depression, where you try to lessen yourself, but the lessening automatically comes from non-satisfaction, comes from non-confidence. Okay, so let's try to get in and define confidence and self a little better, and we'll see if what I got actually works. So confidence, okay, the kind of colloquial version of confidence would be assured, right? So that a thing can be done, and then you express it. It's the manifestation of skill, in a way. Is that a good definition? Well, it's unfortunately with this definition, we're either going to have to intentionally put it in. Well, I don't know if we could semantically slip it in there or something, but it can be tacit. So you can be confident without choosing to be, without being cocky. Not to put a negative connotation on that, but you can be tacitly confident, and it's gonna, it's still gonna manifest in the same ways. But we don't necessarily want to say it's a manifestation of skill, because then it sort of veers into its own thing. That seems good to me. And then we have self. So self is a fun one because people hand you self all the time, and because they want to negate it, they want to take it away from you, right? And this is another good. Okay, this brings us right back to self and confidence, like how gurus do this. They literally hand you the thing, and they're like, "No, you're not that thing." You know, they're trying to make you feel like shit. You know, people think that suffering and aggression is a point on the path. Right? And here I claim that there are no points on the path. No matter how much your suffering hurt, and no matter what you had to do to overcome it, it has nothing to do with self or no self. That's how I often see self, is a thing that I'm being handed. It can sort of go into the can't relate category of like, I don't know what emotionally self means. I don't know what it means. I can philosophize about the idea of self, etc. But since this is my kind of improvised video, I'll just kind of hammer in that, when I specifically hear the idea of self, I think of people telling me the definition and then telling me that I'm not that. Identity is an interesting thing, and it's, I just didn't want to talk about weird things when people were passing me, but identity is like identity, self, confidence. Sorry, that guy. My wife just asked me if I could buy her a pregnancy test. Snowing. You'll often see, and this is how I denote esoteric religion that is not Zen, and this is my simple heuristic, and it's how they manipulate identity. And if you've ever read The Tree of Lies, you'll see it right in there. And it's almost it's hard to pin these guys down because that's intentional, right? But in a lot of times, what they mean by identity and who you are and self, they don't have a very rigorous philosophical idea of self. I'm talking about like gurus and basically every Buddhist ever. It's just kind of floofy words. But it's about expansion or negation. So you are the universe. You are the knowing of. There is no self. It's all about identity. It's all about dissatisfaction with. It's all about impurity. Yeah, I mean, I just keep circling around to the same point because it's a good one.